Skeleton Crew episode 6 is out. I called episode 5 the best one so far. Episode 6 I think is the worst one so far. No clue what happened between episodes. It looks like it's the same writers, but Bryce Dallas Howard directed this one, which it seems like everything that she touches is not great. The story is a mess. They do a bunch of payoffs that are completely unearned and feel like they're out of nowhere. The only positive I have for this one is that Jude Law seems like he's having a good time and that the show is one episode closer to ending. So let's just get into it. Last episode ended with the kids falling into the trap door intentionally. Luckily, this trap door leads to slides that take them down to the snow. Pretty elaborate lair for the famous pirate and pretty convenient for our main characters. We can see Jod grabbed whatever treasure he could get a hold of and he's trying to escape, but the bounty hunters are there waiting on him, so they take him captive. And right away, this creates issues from the last episode. That's why I said it feels like a different writing crew, even though it's apparently not. The last episode, they specifically said there's extra security here because of all these ambassadors and blah, blah, blah. And now this time the pirates show up and they just take over the spa with no resistance, seemingly having overwhelming force. Some X-Wings show up and try to fight the pirates off. So the pirates escape with Jod in tow. And the kids try to use this as a distraction to get to their own ship. And here we get what's supposed to be drama, but it doesn't really work. So Fern wants to climb back up to their ship, up the side of the building on a ladder. And Wim wants to follow these crabs to some locals who can just take them to their ship because it's up on the top of a cliff. KB is mad at Fern, which really just seems to come out of nowhere and feels super unearned. And Neil sides with Fern just because. In this episode, they just kind of introduced that KB has these augmentations. It seems like they're a pretty big deal. I thought she was just kind of a weirdo, but this is actually a pretty big problem for her. And as far as the world building, I have no idea how much sense it makes. And then on top of that, she's super pissed off at Fern and says that she never listens. And what the show is trying to do is frame this as Fern has just been steamrolling everyone and making all the decisions and super authoritative and not really listening to any feedback. The problem is that just a couple episodes ago, we had Fern crying and doubting herself. Pretty much this entire journey, the kids don't really make any decisions for the most part. Like they had Jod leading them even though he wasn't officially the captain. And then a lot of it is just them escaping from one situation to another. So none of this feels really earned or set up, but this wants you to feel like it's all payoffs. And the scene also undercuts itself because as soon as KB starts saying that Fern doesn't listen, she's immediately like, okay, well, if something's wrong, tell me. And she's being very receptive to listening. Even just within this scene, it doesn't really make any sense. They do a weird thing here too where they split up into 2 and 2. So it's Wim and KB, Fern and Neil. And the reason I say it's weird is because normally when you have the character who's supposed to be the asshole, you have the other person who is supposed to be receiving the apology be correct. But in this, they have Fern be correct and also apologize. It's really strange to do it that way, and I don't know why they did it that way. Because even if they wanted to, they could have just reversed the pairs, let KB be correct, and then Fern make the apology, and it makes way more sense. You don't even have to rewrite the whole story or anything, really. Just a really weird choice. We go to Jod, who's captive by the werewolf alien who's been looking for him all season. He's allowed to rebut his death sentence with an argument. It's pretty much a court case type thing where they both get time to talk. And for some reason, they have an hourglass that's plasma, which makes no fucking sense. But anyway, Jod gives this big speech about how they've all been hungry, and essentially with him, they can have full bellies. And then this all builds up to him talking about At-Aten and the Republican credits that are unlimited there, so they can all be rich. And Jude Law seems like he's having a good time. He's having a lot of fun with the role, so that's a positive. Something in here that really bothers me, though, is they had this little rhyme about Ten Rannoch, the famous pirate, and it says that he went down in a cinder for At-Aten did he plunder. And it's like, you have a fucking 4-line rhyme that doesn't rhyme. Are you kidding me? Like, how low effort is that shit? And it's not even like they kind of rhyme if you say it in a certain way. Cinder and plunder aren't even fucking close. I just don't understand the lack of effort there. So they say, okay, take us to At-Aten. If there's treasure, you can live. If not, you walk the plank equivalent, which is to go through the airlock and get spaced. We go back to KB and Wim. He's asking if she's just mad at Fern. And she just gives all this exposition about how Fern never listens to her and how since she had the accident, she's different. And again, another weird message there that Fern treats her the same regardless of her accident and her augmentations, and she wants to be treated differently. Another choice that is really, really strange morality. Normally the message is you treat everyone the same regardless of immutable characteristics or handicaps or whatever you want to call it. Really fucking weird. And then this entire scene is just ass pulls galore. So she's got all these little gadgets and gizmos and chips and wires that stick out of her head. And she's like slowly shutting down, which apparently is dying. And that was also never set up to me or not clear to me. So she walks Wim through it about how to fix herself. And she makes a mold in the dirt of this super important chip. And to me, this whole scene would have been a lot more believable if she had been like, look, I need this little pretty common spark plug or whatever. Can you go find one in the pile of metal shit around here? Instead of this really elaborate thing where she's cutting all these wires and he's melting stuff. And the stuff that he melts turns into lava from like a little hand torch and then cools off in about 3 seconds and he sticks it in her head and it works. So this scene is just really all over the place and just, we want this shit to happen, so it's gonna. And eventually he fixes her and we get our exposition dump that she wants, I guess, special treatment because she has augmentations. Neil explains to Fern that he has a hard time climbing because he's short and stumpy. So she ties a rope around him and they find a ladder. And now she's being helpful. And that's the lesson she learned, is that not everyone is as capable as she is. All very kind of obtuse and indirect. Not really great execution here. So the little trash crabs lead KB and Wim to a giant crab. And it turns out they were wrong. They should have listened to Fern, who they were both being dicks about. Wim and KB managed to jump on this little ship that's carrying a scrap ship. And they're able to get this low enough to the ground that Wim and KB can jump on it. None of this really makes any sense to me. Again, this is all just kind of shit happening all over the screen. Fern and Neil save them, and then Fern apologizes. Again, really fucking strange way to do this execution of the fight apology arc that they want to go for. And also, I don't want to be dicks about the kids because they're pretty young children, but all the yelling and fighting and stuff that is supposed to be the intense drama, they simply don't have the capacity to act very well. Or at least not well enough to execute the scene the way that you would want to. They found their ship. They get in. They're trying to start it up before this big garbage compactor rolling across the surface destroys their ship. I don't understand what any of this setup is. And their ship starts to get crushed. And Fern hits the switch they were told by SM33 to never hit. Oh, he got shot, by the way, when he was with Jod. So he's just kind of out of commission for this whole episode. So she hits the switch. The back half of the ship backs out. And luckily, all 4 of them are in those parts that get pulled out. And all of this crushing of the ship didn't warp it so they can escape easily. And they managed to get out of there. They failed their way through this ridiculous episode to an upgraded ship somehow in about 20 minutes. Yeah, this episode was a complete nightmare as far as world building, story, character. It felt super low effort to me. It's one of the shortest episodes of this season and might have the most issues. I'm not really sure I have too much more else to say about it. I know it's a kid's show, but you can still put in some effort and just basic storytelling execution. But there's really no reason to just have nonsense out the ass for 20 minutes. So I'm going to leave it there for this one. We've got 2 episodes left. I'm assuming they'll be reunited with Jod. The next episode will end with the pirates finding their planet. The finale, they'll team back up with Jod, get rid of the bad pirates. He'll get his treasure. Their parents, I guess, are just going to wait there. I thought they were going to do something this season. Not looking great. And I guess that'll be it for arguably the most forgettable live-action Star Wars thing to come out. If you've seen the show, let me know what you think. I try to respond to the comments that aren't just insults. Like and subscribe and all that shit. Thanks. See ya.